Hello everybody, I'm Richard Gon of Back to the podcast version. So this time, what I'd like to talk about is diversity always important? So what I'm going to talk about is diversity. So whether diversity is always important or not, about which I'd like to tell you some stories. And so to start with, maybe not maybe. Generally speaking, diversity is important. What we should we should focus on, or at least governments of developed country focus on, or governments of developed country find diversity really important, and they think it's necessary to encourage that. I think they find the necessity of diversity, and they encourage diversities, or diversified societies. So to start with, maybe many governments of developed countries wants to encourage diversified societies in their own countries. So, which is a fact of this, which is a fact, or which is a situation of this era, or of this time. So anyway, I'm recording, or I'm making this episode in not in 2022, and it's still in the beginning of 2022. So anyway, so diversity, of course, it's most of you, or all of you, or most of us, or all of us have noticed that diversity has to be encouraged in every country. But actually, so if diversity is always important, so what I'd like you to know is what I'd like you to think about is whether it's good, or whether it's bad to ostracize Hannibal Lecter or not. So anyway, so maybe some of you do not understand who Hannibal Lecter is. So Hannibal Lecter is an imaginary protagonist, or imaginary person, which means I don't know whether maybe there's a really old movie named, I forgot the name of that famous movie. And anyway, so there's a movie named Hannibal. So I remember the first movie of the series, of the famous. There is a famous series of movies, and the series in that series, Hannibal Lecter, who is a serial killer, is chased by an officer whose name is Clarice Starling. Anyway, so Miss Starling, or I don't know how to call her position in English language. So detective Starling, or officer Starling, and she chases and try to capture a serial killer, and the name of the serial killer is Hannibal Lecter, and the person I'm talking about. The person I'm talking about is that serial killer. So in this episode, what I'd like you to think about is that whether it's good to accept and protect the human rights of such serial killers like Hannibal Lecter. So anyway, so which is why I asked you do not ostracize Hannibal Lecter, do you? Because if you find diversity important, or if you find diversity has to be encouraged more. So it can be said that it's good to accept serial killers like Hannibal Lecter into our societies, and those serial killers have to be protected, and those serial killers have to live on just like decent people in the societies you belong to, and I belong to. And of course, so maybe in this part, I think most of you have realized that such serial killers have to be confined, or have to be captured in jails, or penitentiaries, stuff like places like them. So So in this part, or in this part of this episode, what I'd like you to realize, or what I'd like you to know, is that in most cases, you should study and focus on promotions and getting better grades in your own countries. So how they are related is that, to start with, this is a applicable rule to every society, but stronger people or stronger creatures can survive, and weaker people or weaker creatures cannot survive, which is how every societies go. And of course, societies in the cases of human societies things are complicated. Like, so of course, small numbers of stronger people support larger numbers of weaker peoples, which is how societies stick. And if stronger people, and so in every society, if stronger people could go on well with weaker people, and if a society can succeed in constructing or creating relationships on which stronger people and weaker people support each other, that society can survive, which is one of the general rules of human societies. Let me tell you again. So, what is, how should I say, the gist for survival of every human society is that every human society has to create some kind of relationship between stronger people and weaker people, and they have to support each other. And if some societies can successfully create such supporting relationships between stronger people, or the stronger people having stronger positions, and weaker or poor people having poor positions, that those society can survive. And if other societies could not successfully, if other societies cannot successfully create such supporting or fruitful relationships between people having stronger positions and people having weaker positions, or rich people or bad people, rich people or poor people. So such societies which cannot create fruitful relationships cannot survive, or those societies are going to perish. Which is one of the general rules of human societies. So, but so this the stuff, or the general rule I have just told you is a how should I say, that is a basic rule, which is why, so if you are thinking of moving into, or if you are thinking of getting out of your country and immigrating into other developed countries, so what I'd like you to think about is that, what I'd like you to know in this episode is that you have to think, or you have to pay attention. At least you have to pay at least a small attention to get promoted, or get better grades. I'm going to tell you again. So maybe there was a grammatical mistake. So before leaving your own countries, or before moving into or immigrating into other developed countries, what I'd like you to think about is that you should focus on, or you should pay at least a small attention to getting promoted, or getting better grades. For when it comes to getting promoted, you have to work hard in the workplace you belong to, or I mean, if you work for some companies, or if you work for some other types of organizations like governmental offices, or other types of organizations. Any societies is fine. Even mafia societies is fine if you work for those societies, or if you work those antisocial organizations. So, and if you are a student, so you have at least, if you are a student, you have to focus on, you have to at least, you have to a little focus, not a little focus on, you have to anyway, you have to focus on a little on getting better grades or getting higher scores on examinations or on tests you take sometimes. So like which, so by doing or by creating or by making higher performances in schools, you can get better grades, which is how in most cases you can join better workplaces, or you can join better companies or better organizations, and you can get higher paychecks in your countries, which I think is the case to even which I think is the case even to developing countries, not only developed countries. And of course, in the case of developed countries, this is really the case, or this is true. So if to get better jobs, so to get better, or to get occupations with higher paychecks, you have to study, and you have to get higher scores in schools, on examinations, and when it comes to getting promoted in the workplaces of the companies, or other types of organizations in developed countries, you have to work hard, and you have to get promoted, and you have to, for example, you have to become the leader of a section, or you have to become an executive of the company. So which is how you can get higher paychecks in the companies of developed countries. So like which, so where how should I say, where you have to focus on, or what you have to focus on at first, or before migrating into another country is such promotions or grades. So of course, so I have told you many times that immigration is good, and so if you live in some countries where crime rates are really high, and dangers are everywhere, and there are many criminals surrounding yourselves. So if you live in such a country, and like developing countries in Latin America. So for example, this is just an example. So if you live in such a countries, it's really good, and it's really recommendable to get away from such dangerous countries and get into. So it's really recommendable, and it's really good to immigrate into other developed countries. So by doing which, so which means, immigration is immigration is a worst option thinking of. So immigration immigration itself is a great option, or favorable option for your lives. But actually, so what I'm telling you is that before actually taking actions to immigrate into another country, or other countries, you should think about what you can do in the country you live in, or what before actually leaving away from such developing if world countries. What I'd like you to think about is what you can do in the society, or in the country you live in, even though where you live in developed countries, which is what I'd like you to know. So coming back to the original topic of this episode. So is diversity always important? So my opinion is it's up to you. So it's up to the situation. It's better word for, or it's up to each situation is better answer for this episode, because of course it's really bad to accept serial killers, or it's bad to accept thefts as decent people, because so such dangerous people have to be confined, or have to be have to be under arrest in jails or penitentiaries. So because they are dangerous and they are willing to hurt other people, and I don't like to be hurt, or I don't like to be injured. So which is why such dangerous people have to be. I want such dangerous people live away from decent people, because I think I'm a decent person. Anyway, so like which whether diversity is important or not, it's up to every country. But actually, at least to start with, so there is a general rule that stronger people can survive, and stronger people and richer people can survive, and weaker people cannot survive, or weaker or poorer people cannot survive, which is a general rule of human society, of every human society, which is thinking about which. So even after even after immigrating into other developed countries, or even after getting into another developed country, so where you have to, or what you have to focus on is promotion and grades. Promotion in your workplaces in the future, and grades in the school you are going to join in the future. Those things are what you have to focus on. And this is, of course, so I told you, I have spoken out about the case of the immigration from a developing country to a developed country. But in the case of an immigration from a developed country to another better developed country, so this is of course the case to such an immigration. So before getting into, so in the case of, if you live in a developed country, and if you are thinking of immigrating to a better developed country, so before actually starting the actions to immigrate into a better developed countries, what I'd like you to think about is the same stuff. I will not repeat. So if you'd like to listen to what I have thought, please go back to the section, or to the episode, to the part in this episode on which I was speaking out what you have to think before immigrating into another developed country. So this is all in this episode. So that's it. Thank you very much for your listening. See you.